Okay, so have you ever had one of those evenings, you're scrolling, just endlessly scrolling through your feed, right? Double tapping posts, liking stories, maybe hundreds of them. And then you put your phone down and there's this, I don't know, this weird kind of hollow feeling. You're definitely not alone if you have. Uh, there was a study recently, Cigna, I think, that showed something like 61% of adults in the US feel lonely, which is a big jump, actually, from just a few years back. And here's the really strange part, the paradox of it all. It seems like it's not happening despite us being so connected all the time online. It might be happening because of it. So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the rise of digital loneliness. Our mission really is to try and figure out why our Wi-Fi signal can be totally full, 5 bars, but our hearts still feel like they're running on empty.
It is. It's a really counterintuitive thing when you first think about it, because we've got this incredible range of tools, communication tools. I mean, literally in our pockets. You've got instant messaging, video calls, huge global social networks, even really specific niche communities online. Everything. And yet the data just keeps pointing upwards.
Right.
Loneliness is skyrocketing.
Ugh.
And it's particularly hitting Gen Z, who people always call the most online generation.
Yay.
So that really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What is the actual difference between just being, well, connected online and truly feeling seen, feeling understood?
That's a huge distinction, yeah. Feeling seen. It makes me wonder about the connections themselves, the digital ones. Like, what's actually going on there? When we feel like we're connected, but maybe we're not really being seen, it feels like we do all this interacting, all these little engagements, but somehow they're not nourishing us. Does that make sense?
Exactly. That makes perfect sense. And let's maybe unpack that a bit. There's this idea of the illusion of connection, and it ties into something researchers talk about called parasocial relationships. Think about social media. What we see are mostly, well, highlight reels, right? Carefully curated moments. We consume all this content, maybe from influencers, maybe even from friends. We don't know that well anymore, and we start to feel like we actually know them, like intimately. And our brains get these little dopamine hits, these quick rewards every time we see a new post or get a like or a comment. It feels good for a second, sure, it's a little bit of validation, but it's often very one-sided, or at least pretty surface level. Neuroscientists point out that these are like short-term reward pathways. They're designed to keep us coming back for more, keep us seeking. But they're different from, say, the oxytocin and serotonin release you get from deeper, more vulnerable real-world interactions. Those build long-term satisfaction, emotional security. The digital hits often don't.
Okay, so likes and quick comments are like little sugar rushes for the brain, temporary fixes. What is that deeper connection? The real stuff, what does it actually feel like neurochemically? And maybe why are we settling for the quick fix sometimes? And kind of connected to that, how does seeing all this curated perfection affect how we see ourselves?
Yeah, that's where the tyranny of comparison really comes into play. You're right, our brains are just wired for social comparisons. Natural. But, traditionally, evolutionarily, we compared ourselves to a pretty small group of people around us, our neighbors, our village, whatever. Now, with digital platforms, suddenly we're comparing our own unfiltered, messy reality, you know, eating cereal in your pajamas against literally everyone else's greatest hits album. Their peak experiences, perfectly edited, the amazing holidays, the gourmet meals, the flawless of family photos. It just sets up this impossible standard, and that can really feed feelings of inadequacy, feeling like you're missing out, feeling isolated, even if, like logically, it's not the whole picture. There's research, Pew Research Center, for example, that consistently shows a link between higher social media use and increased feelings of envy and, yes, social isolation, purely because of this relentless comparison.
Yeah, it creeps up on you, doesn't it? You see these perfect looking lives, and instead of feeling maybe inspired, you just feel less good, less successful, less happy. Which brings me to something else, something maybe we don't talk about enough. Our relationship with quietness, with silence. It feels like we've completely lost the ability or maybe the willingness to just be bored. Remember, like waiting somewhere, a doctor's office or something, without a phone. You just sit there, maybe think, or look around. Now, the instant there's a pause, any gap, out comes the phone. What's the effect of constantly filling that silence, that potential space?
That's a really critical point. Some researchers call this the erosion of solitude, and it connects to something called digital displacement theory. Basically, every moment that could be quiet, that could be for introspection, or just letting your mind wander, or maybe even creative thought, it gets filled with digital noise, notifications, scrolling. And loneliness, well, it often makes itself known in those quieter moments. It's like a little nudge, maybe, prompting us to reach out authentically to connect for real. But if we're constantly drowning out that quiet whisper with digital noise, we effectively mute it. We scroll right past the chance for self-reflection. We miss the opportunity to really process our feelings or even just be truly present when we are physically with someone else. Now, obviously, the technology itself isn't the bad guy here. I mean, you're listening to us through technology right now. But the problem comes when these digital interactions start to push out or replace the kind of organic, sometimes messy, unstructured social stuff that really builds deep bonds. We might send a quick "how are you" text and feel like, okay, checked in, friendship maintained, but it lacks all the richness, right? The tone of voice, the body language, even the comfortable silences you share in real conversation.
Right, so digital doesn't automatically mean deep. It's like, yeah, fast food for our social needs. It's quick, it's convenient, it hits the spot temporarily, but it's not really nourishing. You get the calories, maybe, but you're missing the vital nutrients, the good stuff. So what can we actually do about this? This digital loneliness seems so pervasive. Do we have to, like, delete everything and go live off-grid? Probably not realistic for most of us.
No, probably not. The first step, honestly, is just conscious awareness. Just understanding why these digital interactions sometimes leave us feeling empty, that's powerful in itself. Then it's about small, intentional changes. Things that can make a real difference. Like, for instance, making a conscious effort to prioritize your strong ties over your weak ties. Digital platforms are actually pretty good for keeping up with a large network of acquaintances, those weak ties. And that has value. But maybe allocate more of your focused energy, your real time, to those few core relationships, the ones built on deep trust. Maybe, actually make that phone call instead of just sending a text. Or meet up for coffee, if you can. And practice being present when you are with people. Try putting the phone completely away. Really listen. Engage without that constant background itch to check notifications.
That's really solid advice. Putting the phone away, being present. And what about those quiet moments you mentioned? The boredom avoidance.
Yeah, actively try to make space for boredom again. It sounds weird, but let your mind wander sometimes. There's a lot of research on creativity and general well-being that highlights how important unstructured time, even boredom, is for deeper thinking and self-awareness. So next time you find yourself automatically reaching for your phone just because there's a 2-minute lull, maybe just resist it for a moment. See what happens. See what thoughts pop up. Or just notice your surroundings. And another thing, take a hard look at your digital environment. Be critical. If following certain accounts or consuming certain types of content consistently makes you feel bad about yourself or competitive or just more lonely, well, maybe unfollow them or mute them. Curate your digital world intentionally. Try to make it a place that inspires you or offers genuine connection, not just a source of comparison and anxiety.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, the core takeaway seems to be loneliness isn't really about the number of followers you have or how many messages you send. It's not a numbers game. It's measured much more by the depth, the authenticity of your connections, especially those in the real world.
Exactly. In this super fast-paced, notification-driven world we live in, what we seem to truly crave isn't necessarily more connection in terms of quantity. It's deeper connection, more quality.
It's about remembering that the richest parts of being human, maybe they aren't found when you're scrolling through a feed.
Right. They're more likely found in those shared silences or that spontaneous laugh you have with someone or the vulnerable conversation that happens when you're just genuinely present with another person. Or even sometimes when you're just truly present with yourself.
So maybe tonight, or sometime soon, think about skipping the endless scroll for a bit. Maybe instead actually call that old friend you haven't really talked to in ages and just listen to their voice for a change. Or, just give yourself permission to sit quietly for a few minutes. Let your thoughts come and go without reaching for a screen. And remember, if you do feel these things, this digital loneliness, you really aren't alone in feeling that way. Recognizing it is probably the very first step towards finding that deeper, more genuine connection we all need.